Okay, so yeah, go ahead and cd into, your week 4 directory and wherever you made this, and open it up in code. It's always good, after like a day, when you have gone to sleep, just to kind of, remember where you left off. So let's do this. We do a code dot, open it up in code. Now remember with this, we now have a Rails project and a React project all in one. So my React project is in a folder that I called client. And now I'm in my Rails project. So it's good to kind of have these two terminals. So for this one, I can do a Rails S and Rails S, and then make it have it run on port 3001. And then yarn start on this one. And that will start it up on localhost 3000. Cool. So where we left off is we have a facts page. We can go to a show page. And remember, there was 3 ways we were able to grab this data for the show page. We did it from, we actually grabbed the individual fact from the provider, or we could do an API call, or we could grab it from React Router. Something to note here, if I do refresh on this page, seems like I'm not getting it from my provider anymore, but I'm always going to get it from, my API, because that's just going to do the Axios call. Actually, a little surprised why I'm getting it from React Router.
Would you say getting it from API is the best then?
I'd say it's like the safest.
The most, yeah, okay.
But it might, if it takes 2 minutes to get a fact, then you might just, and you already have it. But we don't need to really worry about that now. I just wanted to show you more, like, so you had the syntax of it all. What did I call that? The fact show page. Fact from React Router. Okay. Yeah, that must be. I think in React, this is nice. So maybe React Router is a pretty good way to do this, because it's like, that would have been with the last version of React Router, it would have broken it by refreshing it, but it looks like this new version, they're doing some stuff behind the scenes to make that work. So it's like those are both valid options. So the data provider is probably the one you don't want to do, but or we'd want to come up with a different way, but we can just leave it here. Okay, so if I go back to my facts, I can go to an edit page. Really, this doesn't do we just have navigation set up. It's not really functional. We did go to the show page. We can also go to this new facts page, which will take me to the fact form. So, and then I can delete a fact. It actually deletes it from my database. So now I have no facts. Just deleted them all. Now, one of the nice things or something I could do, and one of the reasons it's nice to have a seats file you know, if you ever want to just reset your database and you have that seeds file, you can go ahead, run that Railsdb reset. I can refresh. Oh, what do you think that error is? Or if you see some, here's it on the client.
I think it's the URL you're trying to get to.
It's not the URL. It's like, it's saying it could not. I mean, that is kind of close. It's technically, it is the URL I'm going to. It's saying I can't go, it's trying to go to localhost 3001.
Oh, you got to reboot your server. Right?
Yeah. Yes, I don't have my Rails server running.
Every
Like
time.
my React app's working. It's just not grabbing that data. So I forgot to start my server. So yeah, it's very, I think when you start working full stack, it does become like mental gymnastics, just kind of keeping track of everything. So then I refresh, I grab my data, it's reseated, you know, the IDs are reset to 1, 2, 3, 4. So cool. So I really am a fan of like the seeds file is not necessary, but it really can help you with development because you can really just reset your database anytime and start out with, you know, that hard-coded data. Cool. So the two things we need to do is really just our form. We need to get our form working for edit and new. And for this time, we're going to use the same form. Now, we could have two separate forms for this, but I think really this makes sense to share the same form. Okay. So like we did with, or with Fact Show, I showed you 3 different ways we could get the data. Now, we could get it from our provider, from our API, or from router. So with this, let's just get it from our router. Because we have the data. So it's like, I don't need to, we already have the data to like edit our stuff. Because why I want to get the data is for like our update for our edit form. So let's do that. And let's just do React Router. We could use an API call to grab it, but we're just going to use our state from React. We're going to use a React Router. So let's go to our facts. So remember our facts, when we render facts, we go through all of our fact state, and then for each one, we return a fact component. And then, so I'm giving my fact component a key, a fact.id. What is this doing right here? Like these 3 lines of code. Who wants to try to explain this? Once again, this is something that's like easy to copy and paste and change and just have it work, but what's going on here?
Is it just basically mapping over all of those facts and then putting that new fact that you put in front of those?
That new fact, you mean, is this the new fact? Or
No, those are all the other, because that's the spread of all the other facts, right? Or is that, no, because that's with the other fact.
So with that, are you asking to look through all the facts with the specific ID and then if it comes back, create a clone of it with that new ID?
not quite. I think like when I'm like here, like I'm kind of hearing like both of those responses. I think there's some stuff that like is kind of true, and then there's some stuff where I can like hear a little bit of confusion.
I think it's the fact and the facts that we're kind of like
I mean, it gets hard because there's like,
confusing.
yeah, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fact, you know, in here. And then, okay, so this facts right here, like, can you see that one that's highlighted? Just like
Mhm.
totally zoom in. Well, first of all, what is this render facts? What is this about? What is that?
It's just pulling up all the facts.
This is, well, this is like a function name.
Well, yeah,
Okay. So this facts, which one, what is this?
that should be all of your facts so far, right?
Yeah, because this is the facts I'm getting from my
Yeah.
context. So that's the thing I'm defining right here. That's like that same one. That's like maintaining the state. Okay. So what does map do? And don't even like, you don't even have to think about it in the context of this, like facts.map. What does map do?
It maps out all of the facts and then it's gonna let you return whichever one you want.
That's not, I mean, once again, there's like there's some good stuff to that. There's like, it's not even with facts, like what the map function, if I was like trying to describe what the map function does, what does the map function do? And I guess you can use facts, but what does the
Just
map
maps
function,
over an array.
what does that mean to like, it maps over, what does that mean to map over an array?
Like it'll scan over the array and I guess it can give you back what you tell it to give it back.
Cool. Yeah, that's a little more clear. So the map function it goes over each thing in the array you're calling it on. And you give that
Yeah.
a function. And you give the map function a function. So we're passing a function to run on each thing in that array. And what that inner function returns is going to be pushed into this new array that's being created. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking my fact state. What type of data is my fact state? What would it look like?
An array of
An array
objects.
of objects. Yeah, and what do the objects look like? You know, it has like an ID, text, username, right?
Yeah.
So that's my facts. I'm mapping over them. What am I returning? I'm returning in an array of JSX, like this, like of these like components. I mean, this is like a simplified way to say it, but I'm doing that. So let's say like I have an ID 1 or ID 2 and text is like, yo, and let's just do like, we'll just keep it simple and have like, let's say my fax has like an ID and text. It obviously has more, but let's just have 2 objects, ID 3. Text. Yo, like, hey. So as I start to map over these, like, let's go through the first one. What is the key going to be? Like when I start creating this new array, what would this actually be in this first one?
2.
2. So I guess, yeah. So what?
So that's
what
just
is,
creating a new fact based on what is filled out.
what
by the
this is
user.
what this is really doing, because this is this is kind of like a little nice little syntax shortcut. When I spread out over the fact, what this is doing, it's going to go through, because my fact is an object. It's going to do this. It's going to say, hey, the ID is equal to 2 and the text is equal to yo.
Yeah.
I could come here and I could say like ID equals fact.id and, you know, text equals fact.text. That's just a lot of typing. I hate typing. I can't spell. That's just a much cleaner way to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And then for my
When I-
next,
yeah.
then for the next, you know, thing in my map function, then it's going to be, you know, the key is 3, the ID is 3, and the text is hey. And there's my array of JSX and of JSX. And then when I give that to React, React knows how to go through and like make that nice. Because I have this fact component where because I'm passing those things down as props like the ID and text. Well, I can now pull those off of, you know, props and return this JSX. So really, like, I could take this whole thing because that's really what the fact is returning. It's, you know, this fact is actually going to return like that whole thing of JSX for each individual one.
Yeah, that makes sense. When I was first looking at it, I thought that spread was for facts, but that makes more sense.
Yeah.
I just normally keep it like one letter. in
Yeah,
the,
'cause I could, can I rename this?
No,
No,
you
that has
can you can
fact.
rename that whatever you want though.
Yeah, that could be like F. That can be renamed to anything. That is just, you know, the thing being like current active. Array. I mean, it's the current thing that's being called. It's kind of hard to like name.
So in like, yeah, that would be in our case what the user puts in the form for their new fact, right?
No, this isn't up. It's really not, we're not with the form yet. This is just
I
how
mean,
I'm
when that's being called.
Yeah, this is how this is how I'm actually rendering my facts. I do the Axios call to grab them. So here they are.
Yeah.
So what I'm doing is I'm mapping over this array of, here's my array of data. I'm mapping over this into this nice array of JSX.
Okay, that makes sense.
I'm going from this array right here of just objects to this array of JSX with all these nice buttons and functionality. So.
Okay, so just wherever you're getting the information from.
Yeah.
That's what it's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
All right. So if I go to my fact component, I have a way where I want to navigate to my edit. But we saw with the show method, I can and this is a React router thing, I can give it this second argument in the navigate function state and then give it values. Now this, once again, this is a weird, not weird, but it's just a shorthand. I could say like ID, because I need to give this the ID of the thing. I could say that's from props.id. I could give it the username. That's props.username. Really, I just want to give it props because that's going to have all of my values. I'm actually like destructuring right here. I could also just do it like this, right? Maybe this is more clear. I'm going to just do it like that. What type of data, like this blue data, what Or actually, let's look at the pink. What type of data structure is this? We're in JavaScript.
That's an object.
Or object, I mean.
Yeah, it's an object whose value, who has a key, that's state. What is the value of that?
Value is another object.
Yeah.
It's a nested object.
How come I don't have like a colon here? Like this is the key. Don't I need a value?
Was this
It's
how you
it's
were
already
talking about
the
a
same
while
value.
ago? How if they're the same, you don't need to do it twice.
Yeah,
So I'm really giving this a object, but yeah, it just so happens these are the same. The key and value are the same. So there's a shorthand and I can do it like that. Cool. So now with the React router, I'm using on my navigate function, I give it the path and then this is just the React router thing. You know, you give it a second argument with state and then the stuff you want to send down to, or like send to this link. So then in my fact form, and I always forget how to do this. We can grab that state from the use location. So let's just do that in my fact form. I can do something like this, const state equals use location. I need to import that. And then I could go ahead and do something like this just for like demo. Let's do state from use location. So I'll just JSON stringify it. Okay, so now let's go to here. Let's go to my edit. And there's my data. If I go to my new facts, let's see what happens. That's null. That makes sense though, right? If I'm creating a new fact, how am I going to have that data for the fact? I'm only going to have the data with my edit because like I want to edit this, you know, world is flat fact. I'm going to edit it. It's made by Larry. You know, it's ID 2. There's that, you know, there's the data from that fact. But if I go create a new fact, why I wouldn't have an ID or some text. So just to kind of also show you, like just to review kind of the, you know, this use state. So I can send anything here. I want to send like taco key. So it's just like a way I can pass anything from, because this is my fact component. And when I click this edit button, I can send all of this data. So I can add something if I wanted to. So if I hit edit, you know, now I have like this taco key. So that's all that's going on there. Get rid of that. Cool. So that's like that. Now I want to start creating a form instead of just, I don't want to like stringify this. I want to go ahead and like, you know, create my form. So let's go in here, do my form. Let's just start out first. Let's just try to like get the text showing. So, you know, this is going to be value. We're probably going to just create some text state and, you know, on change. It's going to be this like where we take our event, set text. Let's see where this is getting like a little too big. E.target.value. Now this is going to be an error, right? Because those are not defined. I need to grab those. So let's do this. Let's do a const text. Set text equals use state. So I import use state, and let's set this as an empty string. So now I go to my new facts. I can like go ahead and type there. I go to my facts. I hit edit. You know, it's there, but it's not pre-populated. Maybe I should have left this like stringify stuff here. How do I grab the text, like the text key? So I'm going to JSON stringify state. You know, if we don't have it, it's going to be like that whole state's going to be null. But if I do have a fact, you know, what is that going to be? How do I grab that? If this is state, how do you think I grab the text key out of that?
State dot text.
Yeah, let's do state dot text. Cool. So yeah, now I go to like edit. Now it's pre-populating. I go to new facts. Any idea what's going to happen now? Doesn't work. I need to inspect because I got an error. Cannot read properties null of undefined. Because with this one, remember how we stringified state? It was null. But now it is like state is null. So I'm trying to use this state.text, but state is going to be null. So it's doing null.text. So I cannot read text of undefined.
So would you use another hook?
Let's do this. What if I do this? What if I do state and state.text? So now I go to my edit. That's working. If I go to my new facts, there.
That's basically a ternary. Is that a ternary right there?
It's not a ternary. It's
That's
a,
the,
it's
like
a
if you don't
short
have
circuit
different
evaluation.
Okay.
So state and state.text. If state is, so I just kind of, I'm stringifying both of these. If I do state, and let me like do it like this. Let's just do, so we can like see it. Oh, it doesn't like that and.
Hey, James, could you maybe turn on like text wrap and then we could see all of the text?
I'm pretty sure I have, I just need to, do I not have text wrap on? I'm gonna do this.
Or zoom out a tiny bit.
I think it's just because you're zoomed in.
I usually. Yeah, let me zoom out just a tiny bit. Okay. This might, I don't know if it's gonna like that double. Okay, state and state.text. That's null, state is null. I go to facts, hit edit. So if state is defined, what this is saying, hey, is state is defined, then go ahead and use state.text.
Okay, that's what I needed. That makes much more sense.
Let's just do a couple of these. Let's do another one, true or. Yo. Let's see what this one does. I don't know if it stringifies a Boolean. True, oh wait, I need to switch this to true or yo. Just so we can kind of see these. These are really useful. These are kind of just like hacks, not hacks. They're just, it's called short circuits evaluation. They're kind of like quick ways to do if else statements or like ternaries. Let's just kind of look at these. Let's just do like a little paragraph here. Okay. Do I have these all true? Oh wait, this needs to be true. Or so those are my ors. Okay. So true or yo is true. False or yo is yo. True and yo is yo, false and yo is false. So what it's doing, if it's an or statement and the first thing is true, it's done. It doesn't go any further. So the value would be true. If the first value is false and it's an or statement, then it has to go evaluate the second thing. So it's going to give me yo. And you can do this. It's the same thing with and, it's just the logic's reversed. If the first thing is true, well, then I need to go check to see if the other thing's there. So that would be yo. It's false. And then if it's false, I can just stop right there. So that would just be false. So how you can use this and how it's useful, you can do stuff like this. You can say, hey, do I have state? If I do have state, like if state's an object, then go grab the text. If state's undefined, if state is like null, then it's not going to try to evaluate null.text. So it just stops. So we don't get the error. Because it like the JavaScript doesn't like go any further in evaluating it. So that's what we're doing here. I could have done this as a ternary. Like, do we have state? We'll use state.text. If we don't have state, use an empty string. But we'll do it this way. All right. So for this, what else do we need? We need username. Set username. Set username. We have source. Set source and stars. It's kind of just like demo. So now I can kind of just copy these. We're doing a lot of copy and pasting with these form stuff. We'll maybe see like in a couple of weeks, you know, a way we can create our own hook. And not have to do a lot of this like copying and pasting stuff. But for now, I think this is fine. This is how we're going to do it. So I just come in. Because, right, I'm really just kind of copying. I'm like changing just like the name. Like I'm changing this to stars, this to stars, and this to set stars. But other than that, it's like the same thing or very similar. And then I also want a button. So I could do something like this. Hey, do maybe do an and. Or I'm going to do this as a ternary. It's kind of weird. I'm going to check to see if I have state. If I have state, that means I have like an ID. So I'm going to say this is like edit. If I don't have state, this is going to be like new. I might even get a little more specific and be like state and state.id. Do I have state? And does that state have an ID key on it? This would probably be like the safer way to do it. Because maybe I do send state to my new form, but it just doesn't have an ID for some reason. Why wouldn't I just do this? Well, if state's not defined like it is right now, my new form, I get an error. Okay, so let's see, let's just check to see that this is working. So there's my, I can go to my facts, we can go to new facts, that's saying new. Let's go to edit. It doesn't look like I'm grabbing my stars. And if I look at my state, I don't have stars in there. So I must have forgot to pass those as props. So if I go to my fact.js, yep, I have ID, username, text, and source. Stars. Well, that's not going to work either because those are not going to be defined. Where do I actually grab those? Where I'm actually defining these is right up here. I'm grabbing them from props. So I need to pull my stars. Props. Do I? It's auto save that so it formats for me. Okay. Let's go to facts. Let's go edit. And then, yeah, I can go in and I can type all these. And then if I go to my new facts. Ooh, interesting. There's a little bit of a bug. I'm not going to super worry about this one, but just see that if I go to edit, and then I go to new facts, those are actually populated. I'm going to kind of ignore that bug for now. So let's go ahead and do our on click. So if I go back to my fact form, I'll select this out in a second, but let's do it on submit. Let's do handle submit. And we can do a const handle submit. console.log. Let's just do this as an object so we can see everything. Let's do our text, our username, our source, and our stars. Maybe our ID. Grab that from state.id. Okay, so if I go to my facts, I go to edit, and just like update this. I want to do my console. Those all cleared out. Something I forgot to do in my handle submit is because that refreshed, I need to do my e.prevent default. Oh, that's spelled, okay, I guess that is spelled right. So I go back to my facts. Go to my edit. Just change one of these, hit edit. And there we go. Okay, we're having all that information from my form and I have the ID. If I go to like new fact, and hit new, now I'm getting that error of can't read properties null of like ID of null. Because once again, in my new, I'm not going to have this state. So I could do something like this. If state, do I have state? And, you know, do I have state.id? Then let's log this, else. Go ahead and not. Because this will be my update case. This will be my new case. We could also just do like to show this in our log console.log update. All right, so let's go to my facts. Let's go to edit. So that looks like that's working. You know, if I go back to my facts, go to new facts and change that and do new. Now that's working and it's saying create. Cool. I'll slack this out because I think this is a good little section. And yeah, this is why the front end is a lot harder. Like we haven't even done anything with our back end yet. Like we're actually not even doing an Axios call right now. We really haven't even like done too much as far as like this UI doesn't look great. But you know, we got our form hooked up to handle both edit and new. There's actually like a little bit of a bug that we're not going to worry about. Like I kind of have to go, if I'm on my edit page, I really need to go back to like my facts page and hit new facts to clear these out. Which we're going to leave for now. Like we're just going to say that bug's okay. Questions on this?
I have one question on the stars part.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's just because you haven't connected it to, or you're not doing an Axios call, but when would you set up like the how it can only be 0 through 5 stars?
Cool. Yeah, and so we're gonna think about that as, so it's already set up on our back end that, you know, we can't create something 0 through 5. And for now, I'm gonna leave it as is, just to kind of show that we can't do it. But then, yeah, we'll add some front end validation, and then we'll kind of talk about which is better. So we'll look at that for sure.
Okay, cool.
For now, and I'd say like with this, with your homework, like as I'm coding this, I'm just going to like be smart and be like, okay, you know, I can like, I'm just going to make sure I enter 0 through 5, because I can also enter like, you know, a string inside of here, which I probably don't want to do, right? Because that's going to break as well. But cool. But what I did now is I have my form set up to where I can, like, when I click the submit, I can log the data I want. Like that's in their form, and I have it as an object. So it's like this is ready to now be sent to the database, right?
But will the database accept that?
Yeah, I mean, it will accept this.
Okay, even though you did the
Oh wait, I mean, it wouldn't accept
previous.
it.
Okay,
It wouldn't accept this because like the start, like
yeah,
what I'm saying is I have the information that I need to send to the database.
right.
I might have to like format it a little bit. Like I'm gonna have to like format it, but
Okay,
so let's just do this in our data provider. So what I'm going to do, because I think just, I could technically do this in my form. I could do an Axios call inside of my form. I think just for now, let's just do everything in our data provider. So I want to add, let's do create first. So one, get data from form to this method, like to method, like almost there. We're like grabbing the data. We want to like get it to this form. So let's do that. Let's just do const, you know, add fact. This, I want to have it take a fact. It's just console.log fact. So we're almost, this step is almost done. We just, what I need to do, because I want to call this function here, I'm just going to pass this to my data provider thing. So now I have this add fact function. That's now being provided to my whole app. Anywhere in my app, I can grab this function. So here, I just need to grab it. So how do I grab that? Well, I do it with my use context hook. That's context. Add fact. You know, this is where I want to do this. And then I can pass it the fact. So just to review, so in my data provider, I create a function called add fact. Right now, it just takes a parameter that I'm calling fact, and it's just logging it. So then this function, I then pass to this, I add to my fact provider thing, which is my value, which is now being added to the value in my data context.provider. So now it's available to my app. And in my fact form, I can grab that function. And then I call it right here in my form and actually pass it the data that I was previously logging. So now when I run this in here, like I'm logging that object in my data provider. Sweet. So that is this like step one. Like that's, done. Step two, we can do this right here. I need to, try to add to DB. Oh, well, that's going to make this an async function because I need to do it, and then I'm going to do a try catch. So my try, I can go ahead and try to do it. So let's let my response equal await Axios. What is the Axios call here?
Post.
Post. What's the URL?
Just API/facts.
Yeah, API. And I'm going to do /API/facts. Cool. And then I need to, with the post, as I actually need to send it my data, which is the fact that I was logging right here. And for now, let's just do a console.log. Res. And then for here, you can do like a console.log error, and you can also try to console.log error.response, because sometimes if we get back a response in our error, we'll be able to see that. So I'm trying to add it to the database. So now I can go back to here. Let's do text fact 1 + 1 = 2. Bob source is, let's make sure we give it a valid star because I'm not like really concerned about that right now. Let's do new. So I'm going to give it the data I know I need to give it just to make sure it's working. Did this work? Yes or no? Was that successful? Did this work? Did this save to my database?
200 status. So probably.
Yeah, that 200 status is definitely like saying, hey, that was successful in a way. And I could also go look at my response.data. There it is. Now, do I know it's like 100% successful? Or how do I know that was successfully added to my database?
You could always use Postman.
The ID.
I could use Postman, but I can see it right here. I'm
That's the
logging
ID.
I'm logging my response. I see it has an ID. So it's like I see this 200 status. That's a good sign. And now that I see that, this thing I added, 1 + 1 = 2, Bob ASDF, that has an ID. I didn't do that. The database did that, or Rails did that. Cool. But yeah, let's go and let's create a new one. I'm going to create the same thing, but I'm going to change the stars to 8. I'm going to clear my console. I'm going to hit new. See, that's like I'm getting an error. There's the 422. There's the console.log error. If I do error.response, error.response.data, stars is not included in the list. So that was not successfully saved.
And that's because of the validation, right?
Yeah, because I have to have, it has to be between 0 and 5. And like if I do it without stars, that's going to fail because that one's going to say it's not in the list and it's not a number. So probably thinks it's like an empty string. But then I give it a valid number. And then it creates. Cool. So yeah, let's talk about maybe some front end validations. You know, right here in the JavaScript, I could do something like this. If stars is, you know, less than 0, or like I can use JavaScript right here to kind of see. And I could probably just do that right here at the start. So I'm going to just say, yeah, stars is less than equal to 0 or stars greater than equal to 5. Just let's do like an alert. Valid star. It's not the best UX, but you know, it will at least tell the users, hey, this is not valid. So I could come in here, do like stars is equal to 7 invalid stars. Is that trying to do an API call? Notice how now when I do it, when I do 7, I'm not getting a 422 error.
It's just handling the error, right? So it's not even trying.
I'm not, well, because right here, what does return do? Like, why do I just have this return, but I'm not returning anything? Why would I just say return? It's kind of like, as you're learning to read code, it's like the order of the code is like why don't I just have this down here? Why is it smart?
Just
Why-
returning that if else.
Let me do this console.log. Something obnoxious. Okay. So remember with the return, I get my invalid stars. I don't see that crazy log. If it's valid, I get to that point. Because let's think about this. This is my handle submit function. If someone's trying to do an update or create, and their stars are not 0 through 5, why even try to do the Axios call? Like I'm just gonna, hey, this is invalid, and then stop. Like my function stops right here with the return.
In this case, is return like a breakpoint almost?
Yeah, return is like, it's kind of saying like,
Like,
stop this function here. No need to continue. Right? There's no need to go try to create, like to update this or create it because it's going to fail in my database. So I don't even have to do the Axios call. Right? And that's like, if you think about it logically, that's what you want to do, right? If someone gives you invalid input, you know, tell them beforehand you try to send it to your database. If you know as a front-end developer that stars needs to be between 0 and 5, you can do that. There's also, so that's JavaScript validation. There's also HTML validation. HTML validation. Let's do a number range. There's a way to do this. Yeah, I think it's max and min. So there's also this validation that we can add. This is the easiest and also the kind of, not the worst. Well, yeah, it's definitely the worst. It's the easiest, but it's the worst kind of validation. So I can do HTML validation. I can do min is 0, max is 5. And let me show you this one. It's about log handle submit called. So I'm going to do invalid data 57. I'm going to clear my console. I feel like that didn't save. Okay, let's try this one more time. That was not actually expecting. What? Oh, maybe I need to make this a number. Okay, I think I need to do that. So I need to come in here and say, hey, this is a number type on my input. By default, it's a string. I'm going to say, hey, this is a number. And the min value is 0, the max value is 5. All right, so let's try this. So now this doesn't even allow me to type in a string, which can be nice. It's like forcing the user to do a number. Well, I don't know, it kind of creates a weird UI though. But then I can come in and do like 3.5. Oh my gosh, see, that's how to correctly enter a. So you see, this is now not allowing me to do a float. Please enter a valid number. And there's 2 valid numbers are 3 and 4. So how to do a number range float. Or like, I don't know if we can do this with HTML. Oh, can we do a step? I mean, whatever. So I guess if I give it a step any, will this work? Okay, so it looks like if I give it the type number, the step any, so like can be any kind of accuracy, that now works. Okay, so now like my input, they have to enter a number. It has to be between 0 and 5, so I could do like 6. Now notice I don't even get the handle submit. Like this doesn't even trigger my handle submit. And I kind of get like a nice little message. Value must be less than or equal to 5. And if I go less than 0, value must be greater than or equal to 0. So that's kind of nice, right? But you really, the reason why this is kind of not the best is you really have no control over how this is styled. That's kind of just default to the browser. So you can't do any custom styling. With JavaScript, we could, but with that, we can't. The other thing is this is 100% not secure because I can just come into like my element, I can like inspect this. I can just come in here and like delete all of these. I just come in, I inspect this. Okay, so now it's just an input. So now I can do like yo, yo, yo. I can go to my console, hit new. And now that goes in and actually does the request. That actually kind of broke my JavaScript check too. Why did that bring my JavaScript check? Probably because I don't have stars anymore. So I think the moral of this kind of demonstration is HTML validation is really, this is nice because it's really easy to do. And it does give you some good like feedback for the user, but it's not secure at all because you can easily go in and change this. JavaScript, it's really not any more secure because it's maybe a little more secure because it might be a little harder to like change it, but it's still, all of your front end validation is really mainly to create a better user experience, to let them know that the input is wrong or invalid and what they need to do to fix it. Really, the secure stuff with your validation is all going to be on like, that's your back end. So like the question is like, if the question is like, do you want to do front end or back end validation? Then kind of like definitely for back end validation, you want to do for like the integrity of your database. That's where you like 100% have like that kind of control. But the front end validation can be nice with like things like the UI, the user experience, that kind of thing, but it's not secure. Does that make sense? Cool. All right, I will Slack this out. Let's go ahead, take a break. I'm just going to delete this and re-Slack it. Oh, wait, let's do, sorry, one more thing before, because we're not like 100% done with our data provider. I just want to finish this. What's the last thing we need to do here? So we've got the data from our form. We've added it to the database. Then there's going to be like this third step of like, the UI, UX step. What do we do from here?
Like styling?
I would say it's more UX for now.
Okay.
It's not so much styling. I just created a new thing. And I'm like still like.
Oh, maybe just have it like return to just so you can see that it changed, that it got added.
Yeah, like I should go back. So let's
Yeah.
see if we can navigate. Sweet, I think I can use my navigate. Oh crap, I don't know if I can. All right. Let's take a break because this one is gonna maybe take a little second to explain. So let's take a break, come back but yeah, what I want to do here is I want to navigate probably, but this is going to be a little more confusing than it might sound. So we'll navigate here, but let's take a break, come back at 11.
James, can you look at my my homework now? A little problem. I think there's a naming issue.
Yeah, I'm gonna hop off and I'll be back in like 30 seconds, but yeah, go ahead and share your screen and I'll be back on.
Okay.